Cult magazine welcomes in Francis Roberts of King Gorm and a bunch of other projects. How are you doing, Francis?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am, all things considered, pretty well for the end of the world.
You've got
How are
your
you,
shirt for the end of the world, right?
I have my shirt for the end of the world. I'm waiting for creatures from the sky and the netherworlds to come get us. How are you doing, just in general, before we unpack this brand new King Gorm album and your awesome career? How are you doing? I hope your band is well. I hope your family's well. I hope you've been well. This is an insane time of the year, and I just like to do a personal check-in with everybody I interview.
Everything's better than it could be. It's I think nothing to write home about because I've been home the whole time.
Clever. I like it. But yeah, just between this virus and the world and civil unrest and protests and things, I just want to make sure that everything's good in your world before I start going down a rabbit hole of swords and sorcery and
Escapism.
which
Yeah.
we need.
We need it and we don't need it. There's plenty of fantastic reasons for all the protests and things like
yes.
that stuff belong. We belong on the streets. We should be on the streets right now.
No, there's no doubt.
But here we are talking about sword and sorcery, right?
Right. I'm a little high risk, but my heart has been in the game with the protesters, and I'm using my platform. I use this platform to talk about social issues, and I don't really care if other websites thumb their nose at us or fans don't like it. So this is my platform, and I'm all about it. On the other hand, we do need escapism. We need this music right now. I know it's got to be weird. This is definitely the first time in your career I'm sure you haven't had like a record release show the day of your album drop, or you've been in music a long time. So it's got to be strange for you.
Yeah. I was, if I'm being honest, I was pretty worried about releasing an album without having the possibility of promoting it with shows. So I'm pleasantly surprised that people are buying physicals, downloading it, streaming it, whatever it might be. I'm really floored by the response and grateful that people are, going out of their way to check out music, even though there's no one on a stage shouting at them to buy it.
Indeed. And you have a tremendous array of stuff available. Your Bandcamp floored me with all the options, and I think it's really.
Did you go to my personal Bandcamp
I
page?
did.
Yeah, because the King Gorm one just has the one album, but my personal Bandcamp page probably has like 16, 18 albums on.
And a bunch of the shirt options, and there's a tie-dye orange shirt that's really cool. It looks like a old school creamsicle from Good Humor. And I love that like burnt sienna orange. Like it's I don't know what the Pantone is, but it's like not regular orange.
Yeah, the goal was to make it look kind of like a sunset, like a beautiful sunset. But I think they came out okay. I'm not displeased with them, and I still wear mine. Sometimes I snagged one out of the bin.
Killer. Yeah, man. So before we, again, I love this record, and we helped premiere a single, which I was really, appreciative of, to collaborate on. And but I like, for the folks watching that don't know you, because you have worn many hats, you have been in many bands that aren't like well known. So I want, if you don't mind, just unpacking your musical career in like a quick couple of minutes. I would love to hear sort of your genesis to now.
Okay. Started a band in high school with friends from a print shop class, like a printmaking elective. Made a bunch of band shirts, sold them to all our friends, never played a show. Next, started another band with some friends from high school. Played at like the high school talent show. Had fun with it. First time playing a show was like, a school talent show kind of a thing. Someone videoed it. I've seen it more recently than I'd like to. Sounded like dog shit, as you could expect. That group went on to add more people, and eventually the people that were in that band formed the Dread Crew of Oddwood, which is the first project that I've been in that probably anyone outside of my hometown would have heard of. I mean, like we did everything from like Renaissance fairs to touring with like Hailstorm, Swashbuckle, other pirate themed act. So that's where I first started touring. When I was in that band, I started Old Man Wizard with the same bass player from Dread Crew of Oddwood, and we got together with a friend from college, Chris Calabio, and the three of us, we've done a couple of albums with Old Man Wizard and toured. And from there, I guess I think King Gorm is probably the next one. We started it with the name Gorm, and there was another band that was using that name that was bothered that we were using it too. Neither of us was, on the map really, but I can't blame them. So we just changed the name so we wouldn't have to argue about who gets to use it or who gets to do what. I thought that was like the right thing to do at that point because they had already put an album out and we hadn't. So we put we put that together, and somewhere in that same period I was learning to use synthesizers because I wanted to have a very specific sound for that album that we're talking about today, King Gorm. And I thought like in order to like produce that album, I had to sort of learn how to use those sort of traditional, I think of them as traditional rock instruments, like the mini Moog and the Hammond organ and the mellotron and things like that. In doing so, I started just recording experiments, and some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. And a lot of the ones that I liked, I started releasing as essentially dungeon synth. So I've got a ton of dungeon synth albums, a ton of like sort of soundtrack albums, started getting into like film scoring, things like that. There's probably some other stuff. I guess I have like a sort of like a synthesizer sampling sequencing kind of project called Yagashura, and that one's somewhere between like it's like doom metal Daft Punk. I don't know. It's like TR-909 sounds and distorted electric guitars and sequenced Moogs and stuff like that. And I'm working on a collaborations album with that project right now, and that might be one of the next releases, but I also don't have any expectations with that project at this point. So I think that I might spend a year or two on that album just to make sure it's the way I want it to be, and I'll just release other stuff in the meantime. So yeah, that's pretty much as detailed as I can get with that. I'm sure there's things that I'm forgetting. I've played at open mic nights at coffee shops with an acoustic guitar and sang. I live in San Diego. We've all been there.
Indeed. Great town, and great music scene that you're coming from, because I think specifically for King Gorm to sort of peak, hopefully not finish peaking, but to begin peaking now with this release, it's that whole region is known for like trad heavy metal and progressive rock and stoner rock and psychedelic bands, and you guys kind of danced the line, I think, right between all of them and your own thing.
Yeah, that's I like that description. That was pretty close to my goal with it. So I think that's good to hear. That's validating to hear. I wish, and speaking of the region, I mean, I wish Astro was still a band. If you've heard them, they're probably the closest stylistic thing to us in San Diego. Some of the members of that band have a group called Birth now, and I think they put out a demo or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's a lot of excellent bands in San Diego.
I will have to check out Birth.
Yeah, if they have stuff online, I think they might.
We'll look it up. And then I love that you talked about keyboards just before we unpack this whole album a little bit. Yeah, the keys are central to the sound, and I love kind of there's not a lot of groups using these, real authentic throwback keys. There's an ARP on this record. I had gone down like a weird Stevie Wonder rabbit hole recently where I listened to all his early stuff. His like adult solo stuff when his peak era, and
like Tonto era.
Yeah, like I think even a little before that and a little after, like that whole like 69 to 75 when it was like Musiquarium, Intervisions, like socially conscious but like wonderful funk and soul and R&B.
What an incredible musician. I mean, Stevie Wonder is like no matter what style of music you play, Stevie Wonder probably put out a record playing that style of music better than you.
Right. And including the famous clip of him like blast beating in the 60s as a teenage kid on drums to do a drum solo, and he's literally playing like black metal and death metal drums. It's incredible.
Did he ever get involved in that I invented the blast beat meme?
I don't think so, but he legitimately could say he did. I mean, like, I know I love Charlie Benante and Anthrax from my hometown of the Bronx, New York, but they might have perfected it, or death metal guys perfected it. But yeah, he did it first. He was definitely doing it in 1960, whatever. Little Stevie Wonder on like the Ed Sullivan Show jumps off the piano and gets on the drums, and he's literally like alternate black metal, alternate ride cymbal black metal. Like it's literally like I was like, oh my god, he's playing like Mayhem, first Mayhem EP beats. 20, 30 years before. And but yeah, man, love the keyboards is really central to your sound. And like I said, the Hammond and Moog and things like that are really underappreciated, I think, a little bit today. They're not heard often, except
Oh,
from bands that
the Moogs are heard often.
yeah,
People
they're
just
not like
don't really flat them as much. They aren't really the lead instruments as often anymore, I would say. But they're on every record you hear. Like it's really like fair. It's really wild how often producers slap a mini Moog onto a record without telling the band.
Right. I have like a Korg Moog emulator keyboard that is like, was made to be like, if you can't afford a Moog and you can't find one, there was a period you couldn't even get one, and like, you couldn't find a working one sometimes. I got this Korg like on eBay. And awesome. I take it out sometimes. I'm not really good at it, but yeah, man, this record's fantastic. If you had told me it was a concept record with a book that you accompanied with it, with also a graphic novel and also an animated film and also a fan fiction, I would believe you, because the music is so compelling and the storytelling is so good, dude, that I like, this stuff is literally magical. It's about magic and it's got some magic in it and it's also magical.
Well, I would have made a graphic novel and an animated film to go with it, but I don't have enough in the coffers to put that together right now.
Kickstarter, maybe soon.
I thought about it before.
Right on. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see like an animated, even like something a little more grandiose. Especially with the Irondale that comes back again. With the Witch of Irondale and stuff like that. It's such an epic stuff. But yeah, you write epic songs about fun and interesting stuff. So when did you start that sort of, obviously you've been in a couple of different bands, and Dread Crew had kind of a thing about it, like the pirate thing, but like when have you been like just a science fiction fantasy fan all your life?
Yeah, I would say so. One of my earliest memories is probably like, opening up packs of Magic the Gathering cards when I was like a very small child, like 3 or 4 years old. My mom's friend would buy us Magic the Gathering packs. Some of those cards are worth like a lot of money now. I shouldn't have sold them when I did. But that was one of the gateways. J.R.R. Tolkien was, I was reading J.R.R. Tolkien, Tove Jansson, C.S. Lewis, later on stuff that's a little bit more like high level reading, like Robert Howard or H.P. Lovecraft. Not that they're specifically like high level, it's just older language, so it's harder to understand as a child, like the when you run into words that you can't look up in the dictionary anymore. Things like that. Probably in middle school, I would have gotten into Dungeons and Dragons and that style of game, and that I'm sure that was a big inspiration to the storytelling and fantasy storytelling. There's definitely been some sci-fi. I can't think of as many examples of science fiction that were extremely influential to me. Obviously, as a kid, I watched Star Wars and thought it was really cool. That's an ARP also, R2D2. That's an ARP 2600.
Yep, totally. Ben Burt, man. He's the master. I could Star Wars all day long. I could.
I couldn't. I'll run out of fuel in a few minutes probably. I like it, but I haven't really dug into the fandom.
This is probably for the best, actually. The way it's going downhill quick. I enjoyed the last movies. I don't care.
I still haven't even seen the last one. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I don't know why. I want to see it pretty badly, actually. I'm excited to see it. I just don't make time to go to the movies very often. Now you can't really do it anymore, so
you almost can't. Yeah. There are a couple of really cool. I hope they're still in business. They were, San Diego is such a cool little town with little cool. Still had, when I was there last, it had some mom and pop record stores and like a little hometown movie theater, not just a big chain. So yeah, I hope that stuff is still part of the city.
They haven't all gone out of business yet, so
the Gaslight District hasn't sucked up everything, and
yeah, it's expanding. But I'm sure that a couple of places in that area will Gaslamp, not Gaslight
Oh,
District.
sorry, I said gaslight.
That's a really funny like faux pas though. That's
It was extremely meta of me to call it the Gaslight District.
that's
Sorry,
really funny
Gaslight.
because we should call it the Gaslight District. It's like this is what San Diego is about. What are you talking about? It's completely
Exactly.
different. People show up to San Diego, stay at a hotel, and visit the Gaslamp District, and decide they don't like the city. And that's like, it's like going to Cabo and being like, oh, this country sucks. It's just you're in a tourist resort.
It's hot. It's hot and sandy here. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I love San Diego. I had a great time the couple of times I've been through. And I would also say I think there's like a weird, not since this is not your pirate roots or band, there is a strange like this also would work like nautical themes would work in this music of King Gorm and San Diego is a very nautical based town, like the shore and the coast and the Navy's there and it's a very all of Southern California is a very coastal seafaring type of place,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
works in your style also.
I think that that main guitar riff in The Witch of Irondale is very intentionally like I wanted it to feel like sort of like a drunken seafaring kind of a riff, like that do 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 do. That was like my pirate riff for the album.
Every record needs one, even if it's not a pirate album. But yeah, man, fantastic. Like I love the storytelling. I love your voice. Your voice is really in a perfectly in the pocket there, and the genre, and just again the styles of music that you guys pull from. Personally, I can guess your influences, but if you had to pin them on a handful of bands, what would you say your specific musical influences are?
Let's see.
For King Gorm.
For King Gorm, I think that the writing influences would be mostly different from the production and style influences. So for the production of the album, Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, Rainbow, and when I say Rainbow, probably like live Rainbow specifically. I don't think that we have a lot of similarities with the recorded band, but the live band, especially like 1978, 1979 live Rainbow is like probably if I had to say like best rock band of all time, I'd say like that lineup with Cozy Powell and all of them, Ronnie Dia. Let's see, those are the big ones. Like I wanted the record to sound like those like sort of organ heavy progressive hard rock bands of the late 70s. Pink Floyd is another big one, I would say, as far as like what is the album supposed to sound like. I mean, with Song from Brighter Days, with the slide guitar and stuff like that, it was very like intentionally like this is going to need to sound at least a little bit like Pink Floyd, otherwise it won't be very good. That is as far as the production goes. And then with the songwriting is probably more in the vein of something like Iron Maiden, even like later period, like Dance of Death era Iron Maiden is like a big inspiration for me as far as storytelling songwriting. You hear a song like Passchendaele, for example, if you know that one.
I do.
Sort of deeper Iron Maiden cuts. So early Maiden as well. Let's see. Rainbow is also a big inspiration for the songwriting. That's probably like the biggest crossover between the two. I've always been fond of bands like Black Sabbath. I get a lot of my ideas for chord changes from progressive rock bands like Opeth is probably a bigger one. They're one of those bands that I didn't really like at first and got dragged to a show, and it's to this day I think they're one of the best live bands I've ever seen. Probably top 5. God, and then in some of the songs I think it's obvious that I like pop music to some extent. I just don't really like the timbres that are used in pop music. A lot of the sounds that get thrown around are not really like my favorite things, but the songwriting, I love pop songwriting. there's something about an earworm that really is appealing to me. I like the idea of writing something and having it stuck in my head later. I don't know if other people like that or dislike that, but I love it. So that's a that's a big thing for me, is writing songs that I think are memorable. And I think that you could probably tell which ones I tried to do that with on this album. I think that a few of the songs are absolutely like, oh, this is coming from sort of like a pop background, and some of them are like, this is not at all. Like, I mean, like the Witch of Irondale, what is it, like 6.5 minutes long or something like that, and it has maybe one chorus, if you could call it. You can't really call it a chorus if it happens once, right? So
Maybe.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but I I think that's a pretty good overview, a good starting
Oh,
point.
yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the pop thing, because I know pop gets a bad rap because a lot of it's terrible, but there's a lot of it that's great, and I just think it's terrible mostly now. And, you know, there was a time, I often say the one-hit wonders of the 80s are much better produced and written songs than most million-selling acts today. And I even hear, I think it's probably all the piano and keyboard stuff, but I hear some Carpenters in there. You know, you can't fuck with that stuff's unfuckwittable. Those Carpenter records and
Yeah,
Carpenter stuff. And
I've never really gotten into those records, but the one of the Carpenters went on to become a well builder, and he or a well digger, and he dug a well for someone in my family like many years ago. I remember like being told, like my uncle I think told me, like because he's got like a ranch out in the middle of nowhere in Washington, and there's no running water or anything like that, and they had to dig a well. And we were at dinner at my uncle's house, and he was like, "Yeah, who dug the well?" I was like, I think that was the first time I'd ever heard of the Carpenters. I looked them up after that, but I haven't really dug into the music very much. Anecdotal stories. I don't
yeah,
know.
that's a
Kind of
really
a weird
great
story.
story. That's a great one. Yeah, but I hear that stuff, and then, you know, I think there's other things in there too. You know, I like the prog stuff. I hear the progressive metal stuff a little bit, the heavy metal stuff, if you will, proto heavy metal. And I hear the Maiden stuff. There's a little part in one of the songs, I think it might have been Slaughter the King, that reminded me of Remember Tomorrow from early Maiden. So, you know, and you have a really good round voice, you know, you have that like very great tone. And I liked how you use your voice as an instrument. A lot of, I often harp on this, that vocals are so one-dimensional from most bands and artists and all singers, and there's like a whole universe of scales and notes to choose from, and you use three, most people, but you
So
apparently, you know, you're
I
very musical.
I'm trying to write songs. I think a lot of people are trying to write riffs, especially in rock bands, and they try to sing along with the riffs. And I think that if you take the vocals away from my music, it's like you can see that the music is put together to support the vocals when the vocals are there. So the exciting instrumental parts aren't happening under the vocals usually. And I'll think of something that I want to sing, and I'm very willing to change a part or make a guitar part way less cool if it makes the vocal part sound cooler. So that's really the focus when I'm writing vocal music. At least the focus is to make a song that would be good in a different style. I want to make sure the song wouldn't be totally awful if it was in a genre I didn't like. So
I don't.
that's my focus with songwriting, is to make sure the vocal melodies sound good.
Nice. Obviously, we're living in a terrible time of corona pandemic virus, everything. So live shows are kind of probably, I'm guessing, out of the question right now where you're at. Any thought of trying to do any live streaming or something like that to you know, promote the album at all? Is that for you? Some artists don't even like to do it.
Maybe. I don't like doing the live stream shows really. I've done a couple of them, and I've done them as a solo artist. I've done a couple of live sets with my synthesizer, like Space Music Dungeon Synth, stuff like that. And those are online. You could listen to them if you wanted to, and I think they're cool. Like they're not bad. They're not really something to like sit down and get a bag of popcorn and watch, though. They're like something you could put on in the background and not be disappointed by the by the ambiance. But I like that they were actually live. I'm not really into the whole like live show thing that a lot of bands are doing, where they just each person, like, you know, the drummer plays the song along with the click track, and then each person layers their part on top, and they film themselves playing along with it and call it a show. I That doesn't interest me. I'd rather just make a, you know, like a music video that's obviously fake. I think it's confusing to fans. A lot of people, I think, are thinking that we're getting on Zoom and playing together in real time, and that's just not happening. The technology isn't there. So um, that's kind of where I'm at with it. If we were to do that, it would be kind of like a, okay, let's, you know, like not interact with other people for like a couple weeks before and after type of a thing. So
I hear you. I heard a number. I'm not sure this is 100% accurate, but I'm going to paraphrase that. Like on March 13th, Zoom had like 150,000 registered users, and on March 31st, it was something like 20 million, and they were
yeah,
not ready. But
they were not ready for it, and they weren't the best choice for it. It's really like basically what happened, I guess, is that it's that the cheapest bottom line for companies to go virtual. So they've been getting better. They've been spending some time and effort improving their service, but
yeah,
a lot of the other services, I think, would have been a better starting point. But I think that like uh, Google or Facebook charges more for corporate or something like that. I think it comes down to a bottom line thing.
and then you have to. I'm sure most corporations and most professional businesses don't want to trust Google,
Yeah,
you know, recording their conversations to market
exactly. Yeah,
through
and then
Emulator.
I wouldn't want my Facebook attached to like my work personally. I'd rather avoid that. I work with kids. I don't want them looking me up and being like, oh, look at this stuff that, like, you know, like I teach lessons to kids. I don't want them looking at my Facebook page.
Right on, right on. And anonymity is important. It's important to have a dividing line. Just as we start to wind this up, I want to give you back your day. And again, I really appreciate you hanging out and sharing all this awesome stuff. I'm sure you're busy composing and obviously, you know, work. But what else have you been doing during this time to just sort of occupy yourself? Reading any good books, seeing any good films? What are you into? What are your other hobbies that are not music?
um, I usually don't watch movies, but I've had more time now. I think really not having a commute to work, it's like being given a fucking time machine. It's the pandemic's terrible in a lot of ways, and it's, you know, it's draining. It's horrible looking at a screen all the time, but I have like I would say a good like 8 to 10 extra hours a week, as a result of, you know, not going out with friends and not having to drive to and from work. My work is basically get on Zoom now. So although it's still draining, and it's still you know, a lot of screen time, I have started making time for things like movies and TV shows and catching up on a lot of things. I've watched most of Adventure Time. I've watched a bunch of sort of weird art films, stuff like that. Like my favorite one that I've seen so far, what, let's see, what's it called? The Belladonna of Sadness. Have you seen that one?
I haven't. I'll check it out.
Check that one out. It's pretty fucked up, but it was a very it's a unique film. It's like a 70s like animated. I think it's from Japan. It's like a watercolor animated movie. It's really bizarre, and like the subject matter is very dark. It's like don't watch it if you have like a weak stomach. It's a very interesting piece of art though. Video games, lots of video games. God, where would we be without them? That's been like I never liked online gaming until now. This is like, now my friends and I play Divinity 2, and we just like, you know, kill monsters together and set up a microphone. No, go over there. Literally like the first time I've ever done that type of gaming in my life, and I get it now. It's fun. I love it. I don't think I'll keep doing it that way after the pandemic, but for now it's like, what a wonderful thing to have existing in the world. But to be honest, most of the time really is spent with music right now. I mean, putting together the release for the King Gorm album. um, I recorded some songs with Old Man Wizard before, like right before the pandemic. So We did some remote recording for the rest of it. They sent me vocal tracks and a couple of other things, overlays, and God, I'm hundreds of hours deep into this project. It's a 10-song album, and I have no idea what the release is going to look like. But I would say it's the best album I've done.
Wow.
And I would say like by a lot. It's like I listen to the songs now, and I wonder how I did them, how we recorded these. They really are, like, in my opinion, quite a bit better than anything else I've made before. And I hate that the big difference is the amount of hours. That's really the only difference, is that we spent. I personally spent just in post production and pre-production and stuff, just really ungodly amounts of time, and it made me feel good about spending time on careful production. I can't wait to share them with everyone.
Nice. I like that perfection is bent a little bit. I'm so hyped now to hear this record. Wow. Is that for 2021 probably?
I have no idea.
Whenever.
Yeah, I don't want to get anyone too excited about it, because I'm
Okay.
not sure. I'll talk to you about it privately. How's that?
No problem. Yeah, that's fine, man.
Yeah, shoot me a message after this.
Yeah, for sure. We'll link all your stuff, man. It's been really great to hear your story. Thank you so much for sharing. It's not easy to talk about art and the things that come out of you, but I like how you put it across very well. And I appreciate you, man. This King Gorm record's awesome. We'll wait on the other one till it comes. But like, yeah, we'll check out your Dungeon Synth stuff and your composing stuff. And yeah, man, I wish you all the best. And congrats on this awesome record.
Thanks. I really appreciate you having me, Keith.
Yeah, thanks.